Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio, it's time for Family Business Radio. Showcasing outstanding family businesses and the advisors who assist them.
Good afternoon. You're listening to another episode of Family Business Radio. I am your host, Anthony Chen. Today, we are packed with 4 powerhouse guests. First guest coming up is Maggie and Mike Grayeski with Servicewise Electric. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So kind of share with us your story, your origin story. What inspired you and motivated you to start your own electric business?
Well, I've been an electrician since 19 years old. I'll be 47 next month. So I picked a career path. In 2004, I started a business, sold the business, and 5 years ago went back into business. So it seems to be a good path and works well.
So what initially got you to sell the business, and what brought you back?
Not knowing much about business, we sold it. Then we learned a lot. We went to a much bigger company with about 400 employees and learned stuff out of there. And that rolled into what we call 2.0.
Oh.
So he was actually brought on to a very large company that does HVAC plumbing, and they had him start the electrical division. So he was the very, first person to actually to go off in that direction for the electrical division. So he went from 0 to, it was 12 million when we started 2.0 back up that you were doing the division?
No, it was 3 million a year.
Okay.
So in 4 years, went from 0 to 3 million a year for them. So we figured we could do it for ourselves. So we did.
And the reason why we left and started it back up was because they sold. It was a family-owned company. They sold, and it just got too corporate-y. And so we're very family-oriented. It just kind of the values strayed from what our vision was. So we just really wanted to kind of, gear back into getting the family-owned business type thing. And so that's why we decided to start it back up.
So when you sold your first business and you went into just, I guess, kind of a larger corporate structure, was it always the intention to one day start 2.0 back up?
No, never. We thought we were going into a family business, like Maggie said. And it was working well until the purchase kind of behind everybody's back went through. And then after that, we made it about a year in the corporate side. And I realized I work better by myself or for myself. And 5 years ago, January 5th, this is our 5th year back in business.
Great. Well, congratulations. I know for our listeners who are familiar with the show with the family, there's a lot of business owners who start out on their own, did the 9 to 5 or corporate and say, you know what, enough of this. I think I can do it better.
Absolutely.
So kind of share with us, when we use the phrase family business and you talked about the values, I want to highlight that a little bit. What does that mean to you?
So I think the most important thing that we like to focus on is taking care of our employees. So, going back to the family owned and operated type thing, like we treat, when we hire people on, we are truly hiring them into the Servicewise family. So like we know that if you take care of your employees, they're going to take care of your company, which is a win-win on both parts. So that's something that I think that we felt like had been strayed when that larger company was bought out, and it just became very corporate-y. So we just wanted to kind of bring it back to, the company taking care of the employees, just making sure, it's an environment that we would want to be in. So that's what we strive to do every day.
Thank you. And Mike, what does it mean for you?
Kind of what Maggie said. Larger companies forget about everybody below them, pretty much. We currently have 17 employees, and they're all treated like the guy who came in 2 months ago is treated like the guy who was there 4 years ago. So if you reward them for what they do, they all seem happy. They keep on coming back, which is good for us.
Great. So kind of share with us kind of behind the scenes. What does it look like running an electrician business?
It's a typical business. It's construction though. So, we're a service company, so we do no new construction. So we, fix, repair, and add. We do residential and commercial. So, every day we have, a CRM with dispatchers of guys out. There's 10 vehicles. So they take the vans home. They get phones from us, provided by us. They get calls just sent to them throughout the day. So, as someone calls our phone, it gets the girls take the number, take all the information, create a file, and it goes to that technician, and they get sent out to the house or the business and take care of it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then in terms of, so that's kind of the quick sneak peek. What is something that you think the public should know more about running an electrician business that they're just not aware about?
One thing I want to touch base on huge is you can say you're an electrician, but not actually hold an electrical license. So that's very important. And I want the viewers to know that they can go to the Secretary of State website, Georgia Secretary of State, and you can actually verify any contractor's license. And that is so important because you can advertise as being an electrician, but you're not actually an electrician. You don't hold that license. It takes, there's insurance, the liability, workers' comp, all that stuff. If you don't hold an electrical license, you're not covered under that. So it's very important to actually make sure that who you have coming into your house has a valid electrical license.
That's a little important. I want to make sure my electrician knows what they're doing, not burn my house down by accident.
Because then it'll fall back on you because they don't have the proper insurance to cover that, which is scary. So...
yeah, that's a really major tip. I wasn't even aware about. Now, is this something more Georgia specific, or is it just kind of universal?
Well, it's every state has its different laws, but there is no certification in electrical. So if they say we're certified in electrical, there's no such thing. So it's even licensed or not licensed. But at Georgia, where we work at, licenses do reciprocate in certain states, but Georgia is where we focus. If you don't have the license and something was to happen, like Maggie says, you can't carry the electrical insurance. Your general liability wouldn't cover it.
And for our audience that are just kind of learning this for the first time, kind of share with us, you mentioned your journey pretty early on at, I was 18 or 19, going into the electrician business. What inspired you to take out that path?
It was a summer job. So I tried HVAC and refrigeration, and then just went into electrical. I had a buddy said, hey, why don't you try this right out of high school? And then, so I went to Chattahoochee Tech for industrial electronics and then just worked. It's kind of a different field, same idea, but a different field than the service field that we're in.
Right. And Maggie, how did you get involved or kind of sucked into this electrician business world?
That's a good question. So my background is actually medical. I was a surge tech, and medical administration is actually my degree. And then when we got together, I've had other jobs, obviously. And then when he started the 2.0 back up, it was never our intention for me to come over and, help him run everything or anything like that. It just kind of happened. So, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and it just happened and it just works.
Was it kind of one major event, or was it just kind of a slow trickle and it just kind of made sense?
It was a slow trickle. It just made sense. He was getting too busy once he started back up to be doing everything, and I was like, all right, let me help up, pick up some tasks and stuff like that, and it just kind of fell into place, and we are where we are today.
So, what is kind of the next step as you're kind of growing the business? You mentioned you do a lot of work both on a residential and a commercial. Which side do you find most enjoyable?
What, with running the business, or
either running the business on either residential, commercial, or being active servicing?
So it's funny you asked that. Last week I actually stepped out of a service van and gave it to a guy. So I'm in a truck. So it's kind of a whole new role for me. So I'm going to be more and working, on the business instead of in the business. And then I think it's more enjoyable as you get older. Your body gets worn out. Service is always in the heat, in a crawl space, in an attic, carrying stuff. And so my role's changing right now. So we'll see how I adapt. I'll come back and we'll do this and see how I see how I feel. But I'm excited to work on this side of the business. So we like to go out and just network and do open networking stuff and stuff like that. So I can talk forever. So the more I can, that's going to be my job now, is just getting out there and talking.
Good. So, Maggie, I assume that you kind of like this kind of transition for Mike, where he doesn't have to go through crawl space or suffer. At the moment, for our listeners, this is June of 2022 in Hotlanta, as they would say it. It is a little swampy.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, it is super hot. Yes, it is so much more enjoyable having him. He's my best friend as well as my business partner. So we just, like I said, we work really well together. So it's just nice having him more involved on working on the company, just so I can bounce ideas off of him. Like it just flows, and it just makes it so much more enjoyable for the day-to-day operations for me to be like, hey, what do you think about this? And then he's like, oh, not grouchy and like, oh, I got to call you back. I'm in a crawl space or in an attic, and I'm like, just dripping sweat. So he's a whole lot happier not having to be out in this 98-degree heat.
It's hot.
It is super hot.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
So then one major question I know for a lot of listeners, that I don't get to have many opportunity to be able to interview husband and wife business partners. Share with us, how do you both get to balance between business and being able to leave that at the business and then coming home and still being partners?
So that took a while. We finally got to a point where we have a general service manager and we have an office manager. So as soon as those two came in as parts, it's pulled us away from it. So we actually can come home and we still talk about business. So, but it's different than it was when we got started and it was just business. But we're learning to work. We work together well.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
For 12 years now, we've been together.
So what got the name Servicewise Electric?
That was, I thought of that back in 2004. And it just like it came up, and we have a slogan: it's service and advice at a very wise price. I don't know where it came from, just thought of it up.
That's a really nice tagline.
Yeah.
And so for you, Maggie and Mike, so for our listeners listening in and they're considering having a husband and wife combo partnership into a business, and they're just kind of on the fence, concerned that, okay, if we step into this, it's going to possibly change a relationship, or maybe they're already butting heads. What would be your advice to those that are either on the fence or just kind of working through that? How did you discover your tools to work through that?
So if you are already butting heads, then do not go into business together. Like, it is only going to make it so much worse, because there's still even times now where, I just want to squeeze him and be like, oh my God, what are you doing? But as long as you can just remember, like you said, you got to leave it at the office, and then once you get home, you got to separate it. And I think for women, it's a little bit harder because we tend to be a little more emotional about things. So that took me a little while. He's a little bit better about that than I am, but it took me a little bit longer to do that. But if that person is your best friend and you can actually stand them to the point where you can be with them 24 hours a day, and you have a goal, a vision to start a business, do it. The freedom it's undescribable. Being able to wake up and do something that I love with the person that I love is just phenomenal. Like, it's just, who wouldn't want that job? It's not even a job at this point. It's just our livelihood. It's just our life, So if you can make it work, then it's incredible.
Great. Mike?
So I would discuss, any business, you want to know if you guys have the same end game in mind. So if you're where you want to go and when she wants to go are two different places, it wouldn't work. Right. But if you guys are thinking the same direction and just need a little turn here and there, go into business. The beauty of working for yourself is unbelievable. And it's hard. So no one thinks it's, it was never 9 to 5 from the beginning to still now. Yeah. It's getting easier, but there's still calls in the middle of the night. Sometimes there's still stuff like that you got to deal with. That's just part of it.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing your story. And for our listeners who either want to have a great family business feel electrician coming out, whether to the residential or commercial, or maybe want to have someone to lend an ear and give their advice. Okay, you guys clearly figured it out. How I want to find what your secret sauce is. How can they best find you?
They can go to our website at servicewiseelectrical.com. They can call the office, they can text, they can book online. So just either the website or we're on Instagram, Facebook, all the normal stuff. So.
Great. Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next powerhouse guest, we have Meredith Fingarson with Meredith Fingarson Consulting.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great, thank you. So kind of share with our audience a quick history as to what got you to start your own marketing business.
Well, so I've been in corporate marketing for the last 8 years of my life. And I was actually at a wholesaler, regional wholesale distribution, and realized as we were working through the B2B and the B2C space, there is a lot of opportunity. I know we just had an electrical on. We were plumbing specialties for marketing. within those smaller businesses that may not have the ability to do that for themselves. So I left my job in January, and I was very excited about it. And now I kind of specialize in small to medium businesses that need marketing but aren't exactly sure where to start. So I have a plumber who's actually one of my clients right now, which is very cool. So that's kind of a little bit about my history.
So you talked about social media marketing or just marketing in general for small businesses. Now, I know it's kind of the hot topic with people who are just kind of dipping their toe into social media. They think of the Facebooks, the TikToks and all that, and they go, okay, so which one do I go with?
So it really depends on the business. Social media it can be a great avenue for getting your branding and your messaging out, or it can be a huge detriment to that. And I mean detriment as in, hey, I have a brilliant idea. I'm going to go ahead and post 14 times today. And then you don't post for 3 months.
Oh.
What a better plan might have been to take those 14 posts and spread them out over that 3 months. And now you're building your audience and you're building your message. So it's not getting lost in a million different things going on. And then, for each business, the platform and how you use it becomes very important. For, some businesses that are B2B, I definitely recommend LinkedIn, next door neighbor for service companies. You may not get a huge audience on Facebook. Facebook's actually dying. They're losing more members than they're gaining right now, which is first time in their history that's ever happened. So social media can be a huge, powerful tool for businesses to use, but you have to use it right and very strategically. And it can't be your only tool.
Yes. So speaking of other tools, this other acronym, SEO, being thrown around all over the place. Can you explain that to our listeners?
Sure. So SEO is basically tied to your website, and it is search engine optimization. And you also have SEM, which is thrown around as well, and search engine marketing. The difference is search engine optimization is something that you would do to impact how your website ranks on Google. So you would update with blogs or constant, content updates. You're doing things on your website so that you're continuing to message yourself. Google does not like it when you put a website up and you leave it for 5 years and you don't touch it. You'll start going down in the rankings, and the rankings are important, especially for service companies where you want to be on that first page. When someone Googles, I need an electrician in Alpharetta, you want to be the first one, or at least the first 3 on that first page. So keeping your SEO updated, post a blog, have a social feed come into your website, things like that. So that's a little bit about SEO.
I'm pretty sure we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg here, but we don't have like 3 to 4 hours to really dig in deep here. So for those who are just kind of listening in and kind of learning your marketing service, kind of share with the audience, other than kind of the SEO and the social media, what other forms of specialty do you kind of look into to help them craft their marketing strategy?
So because my history in marketing and what I've done previously, I was at an executive level. So I was on the board of directors. I was at the top marketing person for a large regional wholesaler, which took me out of the daily stuff. So I'm not a specialist in anything, but I build strategy. So I help companies understand kind of a holistic marketing view. So I'm not necessarily going to be the one buying ads or bidding on keywords, but I would be the person helping to build the strategy on the best way to go about doing that. So if a small business came to me and said, hey, we need help with marketing, I would first take a look at what they're currently doing to make sure that it's either hitting the mark or it's not. And where it's not hitting the mark, find, ways to kind of manipulate what they're doing to change it up and maybe help them hit their targets. So I'm more of a consultative strategist, I would say, versus an actual person who's going to get in the weeds and really do it. But I have levers I can pull that can do that for me.
So when you're getting called in and a business owner is saying, well, I kind of tried this and that and it's just all not working, what is kind of the top couple things that you see that is a huge mistake that business owners need to stop doing?
So one of them is, like I said earlier, the social media not being consistent. You have to have that consistent message on social media. People will drop off if you don't. Expecting that just resharing something is going to get them plays, not using hashtags. I know they're obnoxious and they're annoying, but they are vitally important, especially for a business that's a public business, because you're generating a larger audience. So anybody that follows that hashtag, if you put hashtag Alpharetta, Georgia, anybody who follows that has the ability to see your post. So you are expanding how you reach people. So I would say one of the number one is, use social media, but use it strategically and use it to build your business. Number two is not updating your website. I know it takes a lot of work, but if you are a company who primarily goes to business or client drives traffic to a website, you have to keep updating it. Google will start ranking you better. I mean, even over doing AdWords and keywords, having that metadata, which is behind in the coding, and it keyword tags your content. So anytime that you have content on your website, you want to make sure that you're hitting the keywords that describe your business. So those are just two of the big things. So keep your website updated and make sure you have a strategy for social media.
Certainly. So for those who are just looking for some advice, or maybe they've tried and gotten burned a couple of times, or maybe they haven't had an update on the website for the past 5 years, how can they best find you?
You can go to my website. It's just meredithfingerson.com. I have a very strangely spelled name, but even if you get it close, you'll find me. You can always call me or text me. My number is 678-725-3129. Other than that, those are the best two ways to get a hold of me.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. Our next powerhouse guest, we have Adam Grossman with Good Dog Media. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anthony.
Right. So kind of share with our audience your story as to what got you into starting your own business, particularly in videography.
Well, I come out of film and television. I worked in film and TV for a number of years, and it was actually during a writer's strike, because I was working as a writer and director, and wasn't going to sit around because it really isn't my style, and I also couldn't afford it. So a buddy of mine who was photographer for Vanity Fair was doing a big shoot, and he says, come out and do some behind the scenes. And I went out there, and I knew the shots that I needed with this shoot that he was doing of, it was a send up of that shot of Cary Grant from North by Northwest with the biplane. He was recreating that with Seth Rogen.
Oh.
So, and it was a real shot out in Oxnard with a real 1942 Stearman biplane. So I'm out there with a video camera and no crew, and I knew the shots I needed. So I shot this thing, cut it in iMovie, I think, sent it off to Graydon Carter, who was, the editor at Vanity Fair at the time. And he's like, that's the behind the scenes we're looking for. I did all their BTS for 8 years. And that's what started my company. So I did a lot of editorial for a while. And then just like with any business, you can't just do the editorial. You got to do stuff that's going to pay the bills more. And I moved more into promotional. And now I do that kind of work for businesses of all different sizes, all over the country, really. And using that sensibility of film and TV and bringing that to the kind of promotional work for the kinds of things that Meredith was describing, actually.
So what got the name Good Dog Media?
Oh, I named it after my good dog.
Oh. What breed was the dog?
He was a Weimaraner, and he was spectacular. My best friend for 12 and a half years.
So kind of share with us for the companies that might be looking in terms of, for the first time, producing video content, whether dipping their toe or they were recommended by their marketing strategist, or they're seeing everyone's doing these short clippets. Where did they start? How could you help them navigate that?
That is a great question, because it's really, it is hard, especially when you're starting out. Like, okay, we know we need video, and what you're going to Google, videographer, you're going to come up with wedding photographers mostly. And, to get started, you want to work with a company that's really going to get to know your company. And that I feel is what we do best. We're very small footprint. We come in, we discuss, along with a strategist, what is the story you're trying to tell, who you're trying to reach, and how do you want to make them feel? And that's how we get to know a company. And we will put together typically a hero video, which might be about, 5 minutes long, let's say, that's about us. And we'll interview, different people in the company. We'll get all their B-roll. It's going to look spectacular. But the thing is, if we don't have real content, meaning a real message, a real authentic message, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is. And then we deliver a package that is not only this hero video that can be used, on the website and all that, but also I provide all the content that we don't use, because we're going to overshoot. We're going to shoot these interviews. There's all this stuff that I'm going to edit that's not going to wind up in the hero video, but they might be able to use that to feed the beast. Meaning, as Meredith was saying, you got to keep posting. So if I provide one video, that's going to work out real well, but you got to keep posting. And they may not want to have to come back to Good Dog Media every time they need a 10-second clip to put up on Insta. So I provide these select reels of all that too. And so it's a complete package.
Well, kind of share with us a quick story then, as what would be an example of a very fulfilling project that you enjoyed working into. I know you did share opening up with a biplane.
Well, yeah, and that was editorial, and I still do editorial for Vanity Fair and for Smithsonian and stuff like that. But a recent company that I really, really love, they're called Uncommon Logic. They are a marketing firm in Austin. You've heard of them, and we got to know the company. Went out there, put a small crew together, and interviewed the company and did a lot of B-roll of them working and stuff. Now, the thing is, if you are, let's say you're working with an electrical company, it's pretty obvious what we're going to show in terms of B-roll. We're going to show you guys putting together electrical projects. A digital marketing firm, maybe a little less easy to describe. And so it was a challenge to figure out, how do we make this story visual? Because we don't just want talking heads. And we dug in and got to know these people and showed them working together in a way that really delivered this message of, this is a great company to work with. Not only is it a great company to work with, it's a great company to work for. And that was part of what our assignment was. And really fulfilling, because the best compliment we can get is when the people at the company look at the video and say, yeah, they really got us.
So that kind of leads to the next question, is how do you see videography as an industry evolve into the future? Because with everything you explained, there's a lot more involved in 3 to 5 minute hero videos or clips. And then we see on the social media end, we got like 15, 30 second TikTok videos. I mean, how is that applicable, or is that going to be the new paradigm for videography?
Yes and yes. Okay. I think about this a lot, and in some ways it's like, one of my favorite quotes about editing is, and I'd actually have to look up who said this a long time ago. It was one writer talking to another and saying, "Sorry that this letter is so long. I didn't have time to write a short one." Okay. And that describes the editing process right there. And so when Instagram, changed from, I think it used to be 10 seconds, then it went to be like a minute. And how long is it now?
A minute and a half.
A minute and a half. I was like, no, make them tell the story in 10 seconds. It's harder, but it's also a little more enjoyable when it's concise. So when I say yes and yes, I mean, yes, there's going to be room for long form 3 to 5 minute stories, but we also want to see these clips. And I've got some data here. This changes all the time, but it's like, it's the number one source of information for 66% of the people in the world. I mean, that's how many people are here's something else that'll put it in perspective. More video content gets uploaded in 30 days than what the major US TV networks have broadcast in 30 years. Okay, that's how much data we're working with. That's why these companies are, it's 5G, and why we need all this speed and and all this room. Yeah. So what does that tell us about video? It's just going to continue to grow. It already is like the lingua franca of the of the internet. It's how we communicate. It's what we want to see. And what I really hope to see is a rise in the quality of it. You know, these phones are great, you know, and they're technically good, but we also have to, you know, kind of pay attention to the stories we're telling. And, you know, does everybody want to know what you had for breakfast every morning? Maybe not, or maybe somebody does, but you know, we're in the business of trying to make it interesting.
Well, then speaking of stories, what brought you to Atlanta?
That's, I like that question. It was partially pandemic. But mostly how portable my business has become. Because I work with companies all over the country, I go to them. So one of the funniest things that happened was we moved here, and I feel like it was like 10 minutes later I was in a plane going back to Santa Barbara because I did a big project for the Santa Barbara Vintners. So I'm all over doing production. Nobody cares where I'm doing my post-production. And the real reason we moved to Atlanta is because we love it.
Good answer.
It's great. I love being here.
And it kind of shows, clearly you exude love and passion for what is it that you do. There's one thing, if you can only choose one thing as part of your business, what would that be?
Helping people tell their authentic story. And I'll tell you, I have, you know, experience working with, you know, fantastic celebrities, you know, in entertainment and in promoting entertainment as well. But the truth is, you know, a seasoned celebrity who is accustomed to being in front of the camera, it's not hard to get them to deliver a great performance. They are meeting you more than halfway. But what I find to be particularly challenging is when you have that CEO of a company who is a great leader and maybe not accustomed to having 3 cameras, you know, pointed at them at once and you know, and telling an authentic story. When I can help them do that, that is one of the most fulfilling things I get to do.
Right. So for those who might be a little camera shy and wants to dabble or tiptoe into videography or having video content, how can they best find you?
Probably through the website, Good Dog Media. It's good-dog-media.com, and all the rest is there.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Nice to be here.
All right. We have Chris Lyboldt with Senior Care Authority. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you for having me, Anthony.
Right. So kind of share with us, what is an elder care consultant?
So the way I've been describing it lately is that before 1920, the term realtor didn't exist. Nobody bought or sold a home. Everybody did it on their own. And then suddenly they came up with a realtor. Now, 90% of people that buy or list their homes, they use a realtor. Today, about 10 to 15% of people use an elder care advisor or an elder care consultant to help them navigate this horrifyingly complex journey of trying to find dignified senior living and dignified senior care for their mom or their dad or their spouse. And you can imagine how much more treasured that relationship is to them than that of a home. So elder care consultancy it's in its infancy. And it's our hope and our vision as 10,000 people turn 65 every single day that more and more families will take advantage of using an elder care consultant to help them through this overwhelming journey of finding a dignified environment for mom and dad.
And kind of share with us, our audience, as to what brought you into this path, into this business.
It's all because of my wife. As I was listening to the other couple here, I'm like, geez, I should have brought my wife on here. She was a senior real estate. She's SRES, senior real estate specialist, and we were caregivers for my father-in-law for 6 years. And my wife was spending about 15 hours a day over at this place where we had moved my father-in-law into. We had also been taking care of them in our home. So my wife and I lived through this journey of having to take care of a loved one, having to take care of a family member. And it was very, very difficult. I was also a director of marketing at a wholesale redistribution organization. So I found that to be pretty funny with Meredith. Mm. And the company decided that wholesale redistribution wasn't a fit. So I found myself in transition. And my wife was doing so well with her senior real estate business, we decided to add elder care consulting onto it. So now we have this one-stop shop where my wife can help somebody, a senior, sell their home. She does their estate liquidation. She does the senior relocation, and I help them find the right kind of senior living community, or we bring in the right kind of care into the home, if that's what they decide to do.
Mm-hmm. So then kind of share, what does it look like starting their engagement with you or an elder care advisor in general? Like, what would the families look to expect in terms of benefits?
So there is best practice, and then there is, we got to do something. Mm-hmm. There is planning, and then there's let's try to manage this fire drill that we're currently in. It's always best when I'm working with a family when they're in the planning mode. So mom's, she's in her 80s. There's been a couple of signs that something might need to be done. Mm-hmm. For example, maybe she's fallen a couple of times. Or maybe she's been out trying to get groceries and she's gotten lost. Or maybe there's some physical things that are preventing her from living independently. Mm-hmm. That's the time that somebody should reach out to an elder care advisor. The pathway right now is families tend to hop on the internet or they call a 1-800 number, mm-hmm. and they provide their own personal information to these two different sources, and their information gets sent to all lots of different aging services communities, lots of different communities. It's best if you work with an elder care advisor. I've been describing it's like, if you work with me, it's like getting a fast pass at Disney World. You're not going to have to stand in line and go through all that agony. I'm going to get you right to the front of the line. Then we're going to introduce you to the right people. We're going to introduce you to the right communities. And we're going to make sure that your loved one is finding the most dignified solution that they possibly can for their loved one.
Mm-hmm. Then kind of share with us, as our listeners are probably learning about this whole industry, just new in general, as you point out, is kind of early on in the process. What is common reactions you get from families as you're kind of going through and engaging with an elder care advisor?
Probably there's two statements that I hear most often. The first one is, geez, I wish I knew about you 4 years ago. This is after they've had to move mom or dad, 4 times because they've landed in a situation that's not a dignified one, and mm-hmm. Mom's just not getting the right kind of care that she needs. So that's that's one of the common. And the other common thing is, I'm so happy that I've had an opportunity to meet you. I don't know how I could have ever done all this on my own. Mm-hmm. And that's the most important part about this. That every listener out there right now needs to realize that there is no reason to do it on your own. The majority of my services, my consulting fees mostly are paid by communities if I'm introducing those families to a senior living community, so there's no cost to the family. Mm-hmm. And if it's another direction, usually a lot of the work is referral based. So I'm setting them up with my professional referral partners to make sure that they're talking to a really good elder care lawyer, or a good in-home care agency, or a good home health agency, or a great financial advisor. Mm-hmm. So it's that kind of thing.
Well, thank you for that plot. Check is in the mail. So kind of share with us as our listeners, for the first time, I didn't know this industry, that there's a service available to help us navigate and not have to kind of flounder by myself. But what is the common misconceptions as they're engaging with you that you find as kind of a pushback? People who might be a little too skeptical say, hey, this sounds a little too good.
So it goes along kind of a continuum. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it has to do with the older adult fearing that they're going to lose their independence. Mm-hmm. That is the number one obstacle in all of this. And the adult child, their number one concern is about safety. Mm-hmm. They want mom and dad to be safe. So very often what ends up happening is that the adult child finds themselves in a position where they're trying to force mom and dad to do something. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad want to maintain their independence. My job is to help them to understand that their independence is actually going to be increased by moving out of a situation that's unsafe, by moving out of a situation that's dangerous. If you've got all of these household chores that you're constantly focusing on, I got to cook, I got to clean, I got to do all my bills, I got to get the yard taken care of, blah. When all those things are removed and you move into a senior living community where all of those things are taken care of for you, you can truly focus on your life. You can begin to thrive. You can begin to flourish. You can begin to age with dignity. You can begin to age with grace. And that's the effort. And that's the biggest misconception. And usually it's because there's this concept of they're going to move me into a nursing home. Oh. And today's, even if it's a senior living community or if it's aging in place, they've done so much work in the past 15 years to make sure that these places are absolutely not like a hospital-like environment of maybe what they conceived of as a typical nursing home.
Yeah, this is a quick plug back as I've visited some of these senior living areas, and it's almost like a cruise ship. It's like a vacation. I'm thinking, oh, I wish I could be like 65 right now. Sign me up for that.
Yeah. They really fall into two categories because not everybody wants to go on a cruise, right? So there's resort style living. And if you want to be on a cruise ship all day long with happy hours every single evening and, everybody getting dressed up to go down to the mailbox, then you can have that. Yes. Other people are more kind of introverted and they want just residential style living where it's not like a cruise ship. And those options are out there for it. It's so much about matching the individual's social and recreational preferences, their personalities, to the right environment. And you need to know those environments in order to make sure that match happens. It's not just about location. It's not just about budget. It's not just about level of care. Social and recreational preferences are a huge part of making sure that match is a fit.
Well, so it sounds like there's a lot more options available when their concern is if they're either an introvert or they want to get dressed up to go to the mailbox. It sounds like everything is available.
There's over 700 different options in the greater Atlanta area. 700 different options. So, there's something for everybody, no doubt about it.
So for either the adult children or maybe the seniors themselves, what signs should they look for to begin having this conversation to start the process? Do they have to go to a facility or an aging in place or senior living? Is there other options beyond that? Because kind of not so much a misconception, but a lot of, for most, would rather age in place where they're living at.
Yeah, absolutely. In order to age in place, you need to have the right ecosystem in place. And, there's 5 critical things that you need to have. You need to have great nutrition. You need to have social and recreational activity. You need to have great caregiving. The physical structure needs to be appropriate for caregiving. So you need to have an occupational therapist come in and make sure that place is. And here's the 5th thing. And this is the most important thing for a successful aging in place ecosystem. You need to have a resilient family member that's willing to do all of the work when the in-home care agency is not in the home. So if you don't have that resilient family giver, if you don't have that one person that's willing to devote a tremendous amount of time to taking care of that family member, then it's often pretty difficult. And of course, as I said before, if they decide that they want to relocate into a senior living community, there's those environments just are abound. There's a fit for everybody.
And then before closing this out, this is a question I got to ask you as well. I don't, as I mentioned before, don't get to have too much of an opportunity to do so. Is how do you and your wife kind of find a balance in being able to either leave the business at the door or be able to find tools and systems to not kind of squeeze each other to death?
Yeah. My wife doesn't leave the business at the door.
I guess that answers that. Well, she's not here to defend herself, so maybe it's a good thing that she's not here. Although when you get home, when this episode goes live, that might be a different story.
She might give me a hard time about that.
Yeah.
We love what we do. I mean, this is I call it a pursuit of dignity for the elder adult that we're working with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything that we're doing is to making sure that the people that we work with are find dignity as they age and find grace as they age. And we love working with the families we work with. So, we try to talk about things that aren't work related when we go out to dinner, but usually we say, let's make sure we don't talk about work. And of course we end up talking about Mrs. Smith or, Mr. Jones and this and that, and what can we do for them? But my wife and I have been married for 25 years, and everything that the previous couple was stating I couldn't agree with them more. It's about, we love each other, incredibly, and she's my best friend, and we love spending time together. And now that we have an opportunity to actually work together, nothing greater. So those things are incredibly important. And when you're talking about setting up a family business, I think that's the foundation, a true care for each other and putting each other first.
Great. Well, thank you for your words of wisdom. So for those who want to learn more and get started in having that tough conversation, whether it's with their parents or the parents of their kids, or looking at options, how they can best find you? So
I want to answer that question in two different ways. The first is if you have a local need, if you have something that's if you're in Georgia and you're trying to find a solution for mom and dad in Georgia, then call me directly. My number is 770-631-5923, or go to my Google business page. Just go to Google Maps and look up Senior Care Authority Atlanta, and then all my information will be there. You can go to my website, you can go to my Facebook page, you can go to all these different places. Plus, you can read my reviews, and my reviews are anecdotal. People that write my reviews, they describe what I've done for them, and that's a great way to get to know me through the people that I've worked with. So that's part one. You got my phone number, and you've got how to get a hold of me. Senior Care Authority has people like me all over the country. So I just spoke to a gentleman earlier. I have somebody, in Los Angeles that actually does what I do in Los Angeles. So you're not limited to just Atlanta. If you're looking for a solution that's in some other part of the country, you can also contact me, and I can refer you to another elder care advisor that would be in another part of the country. So it's not just for locally related pieces. I can also help you with something that's out of state.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So as you heard, kind of the theme with all of our guests is having family values in terms of creating their business. What does that mean? Taking care of their employees and taking care of their clients, even having conversations over dinner when we're not supposed to be talking about work. But hey, when you care about Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it just kind of weaves in. So one universal question I would like to bring our guests back is on the first thing, since we're on the subject of family business values, is if you have a legacy to leave behind for your business, how would you want to be remembered? So that's the first question. And then the second question is, for our listeners, what would be your number one advice to those who are just starting out? So as a quick repeat, the first question is, running your business and creating a legacy, how do you want to be remembered? And the second question is, for those that are listening in, kind of on the fence, what would be your advice to those family businesses? So now this will be kind of my obligatory disclosure. So this show is sponsored and brought to you by myself, Anthony Chen, with Lighthouse Financial Network, securities and advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., RIA member FINRA SIPC. RIA is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of RAA. The main office address is 575 Broad Hollow Road in Melville, New York, 11747. You can best reach me at 631-465-9090, extension 5075, or my email, which is just my full name, Anthony Chen, CHEN, at lfnllc.com. So kind of bring our guests back. Same questions. First is, if you have a particular family business value or legacy, how would you want to be remembered? Followed by an advice that you would give to families that are looking to start their family business. Meredith.
So, as a marketing consultant, the legacy that I would want to leave is not necessarily for me. It's for the businesses that I've worked with. So it's helping them to build to what they aspire to be. So it's not necessarily me looking back going, oh, well, I did all these great things to build my business. I look back and go, wow, I helped XYZ business build and leave something for their legacy. And then the second part, remind me one more time. Is
an advice that you would give to other family businesses that are looking to start out.
Awesome. That pertains very closely to me because I just did this. So, I had a passion for wanting to go into consultancy 2 or 3 years ago. So I built my plan from the ground up, and I started 2 or 3 years ago working on this. And then finally last November is when I pulled the trigger and actually executed the plan. So having the timelines, having all the things ready to go and knowing what you need to do, I brought in some advisors to help navigate. I didn't realize there was so much paperwork and so many things that had to be done when you create an LLC, and you have to pay the IRS differently. So just making sure you have a really solid plan and you're passionate about what you're doing. Just like these guys, they were passionate, but then they sold, and they were so passionate, they started 2.0, which is awesome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Adam.
Let's see. The way I would want to be remembered, I guess, would be what I described earlier, how my goal when I'm interviewing people, when I'm creating these videos, is to help people tell their stories in the most authentic way possible. So if I could be remembered for being able to accomplish that, that would be meaningful. But on top of that, one of the best things I ever get to hear is when my crew says, I really love the way you run your set. And that's extremely important to me. So that door swings both ways. I want the clients to feel like they loved doing the work together, and my crews feeling like they loved doing the work together.
Great. And then what would be your advice to family businesses that are looking to start out?
Well, I would say to be true to yourself. I mean, my business is not exactly a family business, although it's an independent business, and my crews are very much family oriented. I work with the same people over and over and over again. So I would say be true to yourself and respect each other.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And Chris, same question.
Well, at the beginning, you remember how I said that 90% of people use realtors now in order to buy or sell a home? The legacy is that we do things in a way that will help the general public get to that same kind of situation where they're using an elder care advisor to help them through this journey 90% of the time. So a lot of responsibility right now because we are laying the groundwork. This is an industry in infancy, and we really are hoping that it's going to continue to grow, and that's where we are right now. The legacy is going to be everybody uses an elder care advisor.
If I remember your numbers correctly, you're only at 20, 30%?
10 to 15% right now.
So you got a long ways to work to get up to 90.
It took a long time for realtors.
So kind of share with us then what will be your advice to those who are looking to start their own family business?
Have faith. If you've got the passion to do this, you've got an origin story. Let's say, for most people do. You've been a family caregiver before, and you feel passionate about helping families navigate this difficult journey. Have faith that this is something that's going to be incredibly needed over the next 5 to 10 years, and have faith that your business is going to grow.
Thank you. And to close us out, Maggie and Mike, same questions. How would you like your legacy to be?
So the beauty of electrical is it's always going to be here. So as technology advances, you're always going to need someone to put the wire in the wall or put the wire in the conduit. So the legacy in the electrical industry is it's going to keep on going. The good thing is we have 2 young children that are seniors, and one's in the Navy. The Navy guy is aviation electrician. He wants to take over the business. So the legacy should go on. We're still trying to get our daughter to want to join, but she's the artistic mind.
She's only 16,
Yeah.
so she's got a
little
little,
early.
yeah, a little
So we'll let her work in the public sector for a while, and I'm sure she'll come back in.
So I think the legacy that we want to leave behind is, for our children, because working for yourself and owning your own company is just, it's incredible. But also, it's about building relationships with your customer, and we never want to steer away from that because we want to make sure we maintain the quality of our work with our customers. We want to go out to change out a light bulb as well as go out and do a whole remodel or a rewire of a house or commercial work. Like, it doesn't matter if we're coming out there just to change a light bulb or if we're doing that remodel of the house. We're going to treat you the same way no matter what, because it's about building that relationship with that customer.
And then advice to those who are kind of on the fence and dipping into a family business or at best having a husband and wife partnership.
Just do it.
Yeah. So expect the unexpected. And like everybody else has said, you have to have a good foundation and you've got to have a plan, and realize that the plan will change. But as long as you have your set goals and values, that's most important. You always have to stick to your goals and values. Don't steer away from it. Once you stop loving what you do, you need to find something else, because you should be loving and just that passion and, always just wanting to go out and do better and be better.
Mike?
I agree with her.
Smart answer.
Yes.
Smart. That was
Smart
a great answer.
Smart answer.
In this kind of economy, now's the time to take a chance. There's plenty of opportunity out there in any kind of business any of these people do. If building the right relationships, it gets you your first client, that, as long as you do a good job, you get your next client. And like all these people at these tables, we've built client at a time, piece by piece, one by one. They never just come rushing in. So, if you have the mind for it, I would say go ahead and do it.
And you got to realize it's not a 9-to-5 job. Like, you have lots of hours of hard blood, sweat, and tears. It's not all pretty.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Now, kind of closing off our show, this will be a portion called Anthony's Financial Take. So listening in on kind of the theme with all of our guests is all very much focused on family business and having passion. So how does this tie in with finances? Sometimes we can focus a little too much on the numbers and the dollars and cents, but not so much the values and the meanings behind it, whether it's the family business itself or getting sick and tired of this 9-to-5 corporate jobs and not really sure if I should stay here or kind of take the leap of faith, as one would say, and trust in the process. So kind of the financial take here is find a purpose and passion, because at the end of the day, the money and the finances will work out, but it's important to find the right team that understands your story and can share your story and buy into your journey, because financial planning is not just reaching a arbitrary dollar and cent goal, but rather the meaning behind the dollar and cents to be able to preserve and, most importantly, pass on the torch of your legacy. That's a little bit of my take. Thank you for listening in to Family Business Radio.